We're going to talk through home feeds and what problem they solve, why we built it. The biggest thing that will drive you nuts about most CS tools you get, some support tools you get, is you can get like an automation sort of rapid fire set of notifications. Like new people signed up, person has churned, whatnot. But it's just seeing that long list of notifications in Slack is a pain in the ass because you're generally busy. You want to be doing something else with your day, and sort of responding to a bunch of sort of individual notifications or Slack messages is difficult. And so what we've done with Home Feed is we've tried to think about like what do people need to know on either a daily or a weekly basis to make their team or their job easier to do. And so that's why we built Home Feed or rebuilt Home Feed. So if we go here, we sort of click down to feeds. This is one that we sort of built. We're in our retention profile within the demo account. So we've got a bunch of people that are already here. We've got a swag of accounts. And if we go into our new feed view, you can see that we've got an update for what's happening this week, but I'll look more at what happened last week. And when I was saying about those individual notifications, they're time consuming, they're distracting. Whereas what we're trying to do is allow you to roll up all of those notifications into what we call cards, and you can then get them delivered on a daily or on a weekly basis, so that there's just a snapshot into what's happening into your account. And then we can track different things within this feed. So you can look at sort of, if we've got engagement spikes, if the scores change significantly, you can look at whether people have entered various segments, like your ice cold segment, or alternatively into, say, the red hot account. If you want a notification about new accounts signing up, we can tell you that as well. And so this idea of feed is rolling up all the important information based on what's actually happening in your product into a bunch of cards that are really easy to digest. And it's not just within the application, like this is nice, but as you probably saw, we've already got Slack delivery set up. We're also working on email delivery so you can get it into your inbox. You get it at 8 o'clock either daily or weekly. And what it looks like is one I prepared earlier. This is a quick snapshot of what last week's feed looked like. So we've got our headline message, which is just easy to grok. You can see how many accounts were in the ice cold, how many users moved to inactive. And then within that, you then get the thread that lists all of the individual account users that have made up that particular headline. And so you can see here, this is just one card, this is another one, and track trait changes. And they kind of correspond to the types of information that we are displaying here. And then from there, so if you've seen something like Space Labs or whatnot, or in this case, if we wanted to see what virtualization yard is doing, you can simply click through and you can see what's happening within their account. If you need to tag them or do anything in HubSpot or Intercom, it's really easy to do. So we built feeds, like I said, just to answer that sort of deal with the annoyance of being pinged with constant notifications and to roll up all of the things that are happening based on what's going on in the product into an easy to digest daily or weekly feed. So that's feed cards.
Nicely done. When I look at this, what it makes me think of is if you feel like you're overwhelmed by data in the first place, and then you just get overwhelmed by Slack messages about the data that you're already overwhelmed by, it just seems like there's no help in being given. You're not being thrown a lifeline at all. So with the Slack notifications, and I think the problem that we're trying to solve here is prioritization of your work. On a Monday morning, who do I need to talk to? You get the Slack notification. It takes you into Accoil so you can dive deeper into these different accounts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'd love to have feedback. If you need different kind of information, if you need that link through to HubSpot, if you need it through to Attio or to Clarify, that's what you want in Slack rather than a link back into Accoil. Just let us know and we'll continue to improve it. But like I said, you can track segment changes, which is great to know if they've entered or exited segment. If they were in the red hot account segments and they've exited, why? You can also track those traits. So if the plan changes, and you can do score changes. It's really useful and fun to kind of watch, who's growing and who's shrinking, and to have that all rolled up into a single card. So the other one that I wanted to point out is that like looking at dashboards and looking at individual accounts, they're really good for telling you the current status and sort of what's happening right now, or what are the numbers right now. What's much harder is to see sort of what's happened over the last few weeks. How's that account gone? Where have the big shifts been? Who's joined the different segments? And so that's what we've done with building cards out for the last 4 to 5 weeks. So you can actually go back and see what happened on a given week, what score changes were, who entered what segments. So actually giving you that recent historical look at what's going on within your product is also part of what we've built with feeds.
Could you walk me through, what were some of the user stories that you had in mind when you were building this?
The key user story that we had is what do teams need to know 8 o'clock Monday morning in terms of driving their work for that week. So if you're customer success, if you're customer support, if you're sales, what do you want to know based on what's been going on in your product? Not just how many marketing sort of qualified leads you've got, not how many sort of support emails you've actually got in the last week, but what's been going on in the product is what drove all of these decisions. So when we look at what cards we were sort of building for, we were trying to think about what do each of these teams need to know in order to be able to do their job. And so really it's that 8 o'clock call to say, hey, this is what happened yesterday, or this is what happened over the last week, has been the key thing that's informed what we've built into these feed cards and the different types of cards that we've implemented.
When you mentioned seeing trends in the cards.
So looking at this historical, like being able to go back over time. So any analytics tool can give you a trend over time and show the graph. We do. We sort of put it here in the scores and activations. The idea around the historical elements is that it can be really hard to understand what actually happened in a given week beyond the trend and beyond looking at an individual account. So again, what we're trying to build with the feeds is like, this is a snapshot of what happened in your product based on what your actual users and accounts were doing in that product during that 7-day window. So infrastructure and parcel, like they entered the most engaged accounts for that week. If you then kind of look forward and saw infrastructure sort of cast and sort of entered the at risk or ice cold one, like it's just trying to tell the narrative of what happened in that product. So what happened 3 weeks ago, you can get a really quick snapshot of what happened last week. It's just trying to make sense of all the information that you've done and to kind of wrap it up into cards so you're not looking at a mess of individual messages. Also, what this allows you to do, if you look at the user score, is you can see things sort of in relative terms. It's kind of like, okay, so you can see the score changes. It's like, yeah, everyone's at least met the threshold. In this case, it's changed by 25 points. It's like, okay, well, it's fun to see who's gone up, and it's also good to see who's gone down and by how much and where are they finishing up. Connie Hill, now at 73, they've had a stellar week. They went up by 40 points.
So you're looking at a whole product, but is it possible, if I'm an account manager and I want to come in here and just look at my accounts and get a feed on my book of business?
Your book of business, we would typically say the way that you do that is it's build out your segments. So if you've got a set of accounts that you want to watch, use the sort of segment sort of entry exit. The other way to do that is to simply build a profile. If you've got a book of accounts and you're looking, if you're on the sales side, build yourself a profile and limit it to only the accounts that you have. We don't have filtering at the feed level to say it's only these accounts or not. But if you want to build a book of cards or sort of book information about your accounts, just spin up a new profile and just filter it to only your specific set of accounts or type of accounts. And then you can build those cards out.